finals without studying. I wanted to pick up some of those boring books that I didn't want to read and know everything in them. And then a while later, a friend and I were discussing this, and she was like, does that happen with people too? How do you control that? I was like, wow, I don't know. And I never got around to writing it until years later, nearly decades later. I went through some shit and I had a horrible mental breakdown and I couldn't write for 4 years. And then I had this crazy ass boyfriend who I knew he wanted to kill me. There was a look in his eyes where I knew he wanted to kill me. The whole life flashing before your eyes thing, it happened, but it wasn't my life. It was the life of my country. And it was narrated. Thin skin, short fuse, and an arsenal of weapons. And in that moment, I realized I'd done the most hypocritical thing possible, and I'd slept with Trump. And even before my conscious realized what was going on, my subconscious looked at him back and said, are you gonna do it? And then I realized it and kept asking the question. And his son noticed the tension in the room change, and he went from hugging me to protecting me. The kid was 3 and nonverbal. And then the moment passed, and he obviously didn't act on it. If he'd had a loaded gun in his hand at that time, he would have. But to get up and go get a gun and load it, well, the moment would have passed. And as much as that experience sucked, I'm also glad for it because it sort of helped me write what I'm writing now, because it all happened in a nanosecond. I know it doesn't make sense time-wise, but that's how long it took, or shorter. So I have to go to my computer because yay for Google Docs, where I can have stuff on my computer and my phone. And it said it wasn't charged, so I'm on the floor, which is not terribly comfortable, but oh well. Okay. Esprit Chapter 1. I think I invented a superpower when I was in grad school. Invent is the wrong word. It just sort of happened, but I gave it a name. After Dad died, I started feeling things. I started feeling other people's emotions. Sometimes it was so strong, I couldn't tell my own emotions from theirs. But I was consumed by my own grief all the time. Mama and I cried together a lot at first. She seemed to get over him faster than I did. I was still consumed by grief. But one day I felt happiness out of nowhere. I looked at Mama. It was her happiness. She was looking at a picture of Dad. I wished I could have been happy with just the memories, but I wanted him with me. I wanted him to see me get my black belt, graduate from high school and college, walk me down the aisle on my wedding day, hold my baby's hands. Mom and Daddy had had a lifetime together before I came along. I was considered a geriatric pregnancy. I'd only had 11 years with him. It took years of self-medication with drugs and alcohol, but I finally hid my grief. I learned to be happy again. I went to high school. I got kicked out for a few weeks, but I came back and finished only a semester late. Maybe not with the best grades, but I finished. I finished college. Ow. I'm still in a lot of pain. Hang on. And no, this is by no means autobiographical at all. There's one character in here who's actually me, and she was exhausting to write. It's just fiction. I finished college, although not as well as quickly or as I could have, without the interference of drugs and alcohol. I felt other people's emotions often. I gotta do something about that wrist. It's still killing me. Guilt that didn't belong to me. Happiness I didn't deserve. Anger that wasn't mine. It took many years to learn which were my emotions and which were someone else's. Usually I had to be physically close to them, sometimes emotionally close. Sometimes they could be on the other side of the room and so consumed with whatever they were feeling that But I, a complete stranger, could feel it. I learned that's called an empath. They're not that rare. My empathy might be stronger than others. I don't know. I've learned to control it. I've learned to separate it. I've learned to not tell people what I know about them because it freaks them out. I'm a good listener. I literally feel like I've been punched in the stomach when someone tells me about their heartbreak. I can have a horrible day myself and be genuinely happy for someone else. All in all, this empathy has come in handy in making and keeping friends. Friends who helped me get through my worst days when I missed my dad. My best days that became my worst because I still wanted him there. Mama and I remained close, and she never remarried. She kept working and joined sewing circles and dated here and there. She dated more than I did, actually. I just wasn't interested. My empathy helped me understand why she was able to move on. Because she was still living. I'm 25 now, and whatever's going on with this empathy thing has gotten stronger and weirder. It started last week. I don't know how the really strong power came on, and I don't know the name for it. If I had to name it, I would call it a superpower, and I would call it absorption. My college roommate was named Ashley. She was a total bitch. I hated sharing a dorm with her. She had it in her head that her boyfriend was in love with me. I have no idea where she got that delusion. He was hot, though, but I figured he was out of my league and dated only skinny bitches like Ashley. He and I would talk about superheroes and comic books when he came over, and we'd run into each other at Comic-Con before he started dating her. But if he'd wanted me, he would have asked me out before I introduced him to her. He and I weren't terribly close before they dated, but we were friends. He was one of the few men I knew who could be just friends with a woman. After they broke up because she was controlling, we remained friends, and he became better friends, even though I'd introduced him to the spawn of Satan. I was pleasantly surprised that he was so chill, being hot and dating bitches like Ashley. But he was surprisingly down to earth. I admit I had a huge crush on him. But I remained, as the fat, funny friends usually are, one of the guys. Better than being a duff, though, dumb, ugly fat friend. So I accepted my role as just friends and got over him and came to sincerely enjoy his company without having to dingle or hope for sex to keep him around. Like I had to do with so many men. Like many women have to do. It's no wonder people have fewer friends as they get older. His name is Charlie. He's one of my best friends. My other best friend is named Sam. He's another man who can be just friends with a woman. It also helps that he's gay. I met Charlie in college and Sam in high school. The three of us remained friends all through grad school, even though we were in different programs. Sam and I moved back to our hometown to go there, and Charlie came with us. Mama liked having all of us around. We'd trade off going to her house and Sam's parents for Sunday dinners and laundry. They pretended to hate doing our laundry, but I know they secretly liked it. Well, maybe not Sam's parents so much. He's the oldest of 7. He did his own often and took care of his siblings too. His parents put us to work when we visited. We were sitting in our coffee shop one day, the three of us, having come from separate study groups. I was getting my MBA, Sam was taking civil engineering, and Charlie was taking software engineering. We were eating, laughing, talking, the usual. Then it happened. I put my hand on Charlie's arm, like I'd done a million times before, to emphasize a point. I was suddenly overcome with a montage of images. It was as if his life, up until that point, flashed before my eyes. I saw things he'd told me, memories we'd shared, and secrets he'd never whispered to anyone. What did you... I have a headache. I took my hand away, and immediately the images stopped. But I couldn't take away the image of his father, doing a line of coke in a roach-infested bathroom that he must have seen. "Are you okay? What just happened?" Charlie asked. I stared at him, unable to express what just happened. There were no words. Nothing. I don't know. A flash headache thing. I put my hand on my head. I dropped it down carelessly. It landed on my book. Again, a montage of images flashed through my mind, but this time text, theories, the knowledge held within my textbook. I saw scribbled notes from past students in the margins before I moved my hand again. What was going on? I stood up to leave and grabbed my books. It happened again. I was absorbing the knowledge in my textbooks by touch. If I could control this, it would be great. As it was a barrage of imagery attacking my conscious. I started to faint. It was dizzying. Sam steadied me. Again, a slew of images that didn't belong to me. Sam was 7 and viciously attacked by a pit bull. He was 10 and broke his leg skiing. "Don't touch me!" I didn't mean to yell. Heads turned in the coffee shop. There was no way to explain what had just happened. I hadn't even told them about the empath thing because too many people didn't believe it was real. They thought I was crazy. This, whatever this was crazy. Where did it come from? How was it happening? Could I stop it? I was afraid to touch anything. I'd always been a touchy-feely person. Now I was terrified to touch anyone. I somehow made it home that day. I went straight to bed. Clothing was fine. Furniture was fine. Just people and books, I suppose. And walls, I discovered. I steadied myself against the wall and got another flash, I guess you could call it. But this one wasn't visual, it was auditory. If these walls had ears indeed. I heard snatches of my own conversations played back to me, conversations of tenants past, amorous lovers. I quickly removed my hand. What was this? Who could I tell? Did I need a neurologist, a psychologist, or an exorcist? It was 7 p.m. I'd been sleeping fitfully for 3 hours. After sitting on my bed for what felt like another hour, I finally got up, showered, avoided touching the walls, got dressed, and drove to my mother's house. I don't know why I thought of her, but I did. "Allie, you look flushed. Are you hungry?" My mother came wheeling in from the other room. I tried to enter the kitchen door quietly, but she'd heard me. She'd always heard me, even when I wasn't betrayed by our German shepherd Zeke. "I'm okay, thanks, Mama." I bent down to give her a hug, then plopped myself in one of her dining room chairs, gingerly touching the table. My head was swimming from the images I'd seen of her in that brief hug. "You don't look okay. What's up? Finals got you down? Boy troubles?" I had no idea where to start, but I'd come here for a reason and I had to tell someone. "Did you used to hunt before you hated guns?" I just dove into one of the memories I'd seen. It was unmistakably my mother with a rifle, and she was good. "How did you know that?" she gasped, clutching her wheelchair for support, as if I'd physically pushed her. "I don't know how to say this, or why it's happening, or what's happening, but you know I'm an empath, right?" My mother narrowed her eyes in suspicion at me. "Yeah, me too. But you couldn't have known that. I wasn't even thinking about it. Haven't for years. Gave it up long before you were born." "I know, it got stronger, or weirder, today. I was in the coffee shop with Sam and Charlie." I told her what happened. I gave details of the mountain Sam broke his leg on, the roaches in the bathroom of Charlie's father. I told her how they came in flashes of knowledge and left me dizzy. Mama didn't interrupt or question me. She did gasp at Charlie's dad doing coke. He'd been the mayor and was an upstanding citizen as far as she knew. She'd never actually met him, but I had, and was as surprised at the image as the fact that I saw it. I told Mama about the walls. Thankfully, she didn't write me off as being crazy, although I felt like it. She didn't question the validity of my words, maybe because I started off with her hunting. For whatever reason, my down-to-earth, realistic, skeptical mother, who deliberately raised me without religion of any kind, didn't question me, and I was grateful. "Allison, this is so much to take in. I don't know if you need a neurologist, psychologist, or exorcist." I smiled. I was my mother's daughter. She went to pat me on the arm to comfort me, and I was visually assaulted again. Dad proposing to her several times before she said yes. Her own dad clearly disapproved.